When you returned, you put over Bagwell immediately. Did you know the writing was on the wall for you?
No, not really, not then. Because what happened was that night I got there and Marcus and I started together way back in the day. And so we knew each other really well. And I knew Marcus good enough to know that, and he knew me good enough to know not to BS me. And so I basically said, they said, well, they want me to go over. And I said, well, let's figure out a way to do it, and let's make it look good. And so, and I figured at that time, everybody was losing to the NWO, so I thought, well, okay, well, maybe it's just a one-time deal. And my whole thing is at that point, honestly, Rob, I really didn't mind. There were a lot of guys that did favors for me, that I had not really earned the right to have them do a favor for me, and they did, maybe if the boss said so, whatever, but they didn't gripe about it. They went in and did it. So I was at that point where I was like, you know what, it's time for me to start returning the favor some. So I didn't mind it at all. The one thing I did mind, and I took it up with Marcus after the match was, here I was, this guy that, when I hit and kicked people, supposedly it was supposed to really, really hurt them, and I tried very hard not to hurt people.
Right.
And I proudly say I don't think I'd ever delivered a shot unintentionally that hurt somebody. But after the finish of that match, I put the heat on him for a while. He just jumped right up, and I was just like, "Hey, man, come on! I put you over, but you don't have to just jump back up."
Right.
And of course, we obviously made quick peace on that. And Marcus and I have always been on a good even level. But I started to see it a little bit. But then you kind of, how everybody in the business, I'm kind of an eternal optimist, so I just kind of brushed it off. It's just, it's my time to do a few favors, so be it,
I guess whose idea was it to kill the gimmick, and did you like the idea of trashing the gimmick?
I got to be honest with you, I was so frustrated at that time with the way certain things were going or not going. It was about what I felt like doing with it, But once again, there's times when, you're told what to do, and you just you pick your battle, so to speak. And so my thing was, well, okay, if you want me to trash this, do you have better plans for me? And they're like, yeah, we have. We've got some better plans for you. We'll keep you around, and I'll never forget being naive enough to believe Eric and saying, you'll have a job here as long as you want. Whether it's moving into the power plant and teaching, because Paul had already started to go to bat for me on that note, and the marketing people in the office. I'd kind of become a guy that was kind of a little bit of a liaison between the front office and some of the guys, because the office people weren't really respected by the boys when they would call and ask them, hey, and so I kind of started working my way into that, and with the intention of maybe working into the office one day, and not as a booker or anything like that, obviously, or on the booking committee. I just wanted to be, in the business end of it, and Eric assured me that that would happen. So I was at the point where I was like, well, if they think it's run its course, okay, everybody wants it to go on forever, but I tried to be, understanding about it. So.
When they finally did release you, were you ever offered a chance to renegotiate, or was it pretty much?
Well, believe it or not, what happened was I went on my own, and I spent about $8,000 of my own money, and I shot about 7 vignettes. Luther and I shot about 7 vignettes of the Buzz Stern character, and that's what happened. They called me, told me I was released, and I said, "Can I get a meeting with Eric?" And they said, "What for?" And he's not going to rehire you. And I said, "Can I just get a meeting with him?" So I talked to Janie, and she gave me like 3 days later, I had a meeting. I walked in and I said, "I just want you to watch something." I gave him the tape. He watched it and he said, "Okay, you're rehired." And he said, "I'm not going to pay you Glacier money." I'll never forget that. And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And my first check that came in, it was like $200 less. But that's another thing that, if anybody watches this who's a young wrestler, I was proactive. I didn't wait around for them to come up with something for me. I said, you know what? I could see the writing on the wall. It was starting to, run its course. And I said, okay, what can I do? And so I spent my own money. I flew up a buddy of mine from Miami who was the director. I did all that. I got it ready. And as soon as that hatchet came down, I was like, how about this?
Right.
And I got rehired.
Who came up with the Coach Stein gimmick? Or Stein gimmick?
Coach Buzz Stern. Like I said, I actually did it on the indie scene before I ever did the Glacier thing a couple times. And Disco Inferno came up with the name. Okay. And I actually, I took that character from, a lot of people look at it and they think I took it from like the Beavis and Butthead character,
right.
The Coach, whatever his name was. But and I did take a little bit of the name, I guess, but Coach Buzzcut, I think the name was. So, but I think I did take the Buzz part, but I never really watched a lot of that. But I had so many good character coaches when I was coming up. I just took a bit of this guy, and being that I'd been a coach and kind of played that role a little bit, that role was much easier for me to play than Glacier because I had lived it already.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun to do. I wish, like I said, for whatever reason, the powers that be who kind of put the boots to it at some point, I wish they would have given us a chance to run with it because I know Dusty really liked it. And at that point, he was kind of doing helping shoot the vignettes and stuff. And it was good. It was solid. But like anything else, like the Glacier character and the Buzz Stern character, if you can't really talk and relate to the fans, sooner or later it's going to go stale, and that's kind of what happened.
You were then teamed with Luther Biggs, I believe, right?
Yeah. Luther's still one of my best friends today, and for his sake, I wish it would have gone longer because he was a very talented guy. I went through the power plant. For a big guy to be able to make it to the power plant tryouts is saying something. I mean, because those are the most brutal thing I ever saw in my life, and he's a very smart guy, very well educated guy, a good character. And we had a lot of fun with it, man. We really did. But at that point, WCW was already starting to unfold and fall apart a little bit, and everybody was just trying to hang on to whatever they would give you, really. So
you left WCW for a little bit, right?
I left for a little bit, and
you worked for Dusty.
I worked for Dusty when he started Turnbuckle, which was an awesome experience. Because like I said, growing up watching Dusty, he was a hero of mine. And so I helped get that started with him. And
Barry was there, and so was Dustin, right?
Yeah, Barry and Dustin. And that's the one thing I thank Dusty for the most is the fact that he gave me an opportunity to wrestle some guys I never would have got a chance to wrestle. I wrestled Dusty. Barry. Dusty put the title on me, and then I wrestled Barry. We went it was like 35-minute match, and I remember Barry was sick that night. He got there and he wasn't feeling real well, and he's just like, "Hey, whatever you want to do, man, you just call it." I'm like, "Barry, are you kidding me?" Yeah, you want me to call it? He was like, and that was one of the proudest moments of my career was, going through and Barry trusted me enough to call a 30-minute plus match, and it was a really good match, and I think it was really solid. But I never wrestled Zbyszko until I got to Turnbuckle. I never wrestled Dave Taylor. Guys like that I never would have had a chance to wrestle, even though I kind of knew him already, but never got in the ring with him. And so, I've got a lot to thank Dusty for. I mean, and other than the fact that he just became a mentor to me and a really close friend. And when I got married, he was a groomsman at my wedding,
right.
Which is a hoot. Him and Paige both. And I'm not married anymore, but I'm still friends with them. So
right. You went back to WCW, and then you did the angle with Norman Smiley, but it never really materialized. Why is that?
Well, I tell you what. Let me just start beginning with that. Once again, for any young wrestler who's watching, I was proactive. I went to Terry Taylor and I said, "What can I do to get a spot back on the roster? What can I do?" And we threw some ideas around. He said, "You know what?" He said, "Why don't we pitch something, to the booking committee, the Glacier thing? Why don't we let you do what maybe you've always wanted to do with it, which is let Glacier actually really believe he's a superhero, And he said, "Can you think you kind of be comedic with it?" And I was like, "Terry, I'm sure I can, And so this is the story. Very few people know this. This is exactly how I got rehired. Is I met with Terry. I put together like a 3-minute promo from beginning to end. I went out on my own money, which is a picture they're using for the Legends of the Ring thing with this. I had a whole new style of armor design, the mask. I paid for all that myself.
Right.
When I wasn't under contract. And Terry and I set a thing up, an agreement where they were going to fly back in town, and they were going straight to the offices, and they were going to have a booking meeting. And Terry took my copy of my music, had it on cassette at the time, and he had a boombox. He put it in the room there, set it by his chair. I went, got dressed before I knew they were going to be there, in the new Glacier gimmick. I had new tights and everything. I hid in the closet in the booking room, and I've never told this story to only a few people in my inner circle. And about 10 minutes in the meeting, Terry said, "I got something I want you guys to listen to and tell me what you think." And I remember that idiot Disco, who's still one of my good friends, was on the booking committee at the time, which should say a lot right there. So, but he hit the music was playing, and Disco's like, "What is that? That's rage music. What are you playing that to?" And all of a sudden, man, I busted out of the door. And I started cutting this promo, and it was very much a kind of comedic type, new attitude for me. I never forget, Ed Ferrara falling out of his chair. He was laughing so hard, but I never broke character. And I did the whole gimmick. The whole promo. Made my way over to the door. Walked through my last line out. Boom. Shut the door and walked out. Took it off. Got in my car and drove home. And that's what Terry told me to do. And he said, "Just wait to hear from me." And called me back later today. He said they loved it. And he said, "Let's bring you in and renegotiate." Oh. And so they did. And then and I don't know whose idea it was to put me with Norman. It might have been Terry's, but it was one of the funnest things I ever did working with Norman. Because,
Right.
you know, anybody that's ever met Norman Smiley knows he's just a phenomenal, great guy. You know?
Definitely.
So it was a lot of fun. Maybe some of the most, because I was allowed to have fun finally. You know?
Yeah.
So, and you know, of course, at the end when it kind of fizzled out, once again, I think it was just a victim of WCW not writing stuff out and planning it out. You know, they were kind of doing it week by week. And after a while, it just, like so many other things, just seemed to drop off the chart with them.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.